Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas, too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts, and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. I'm not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself, blood pressure, or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough, they adapt, but only can do so much when your politicians ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not gonna let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, or whatever. We're gonna fight to the bitter end. Detroit gonna survive.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Hey, what do you say, folks? It is a Monday, big Monday, February 23rd, the Bill Press Show. Here we go for another 3 hours of news and commentary. We'll give you the news, we'll give you a little commentary, and we want to hear from you, what you think about it all. That's the fun of our little town hall every day here on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV. That's our worldwide video stream, you know. YouTube.com/Tawker, TAWKRTV, or Free Speech TV on DirecTV and the Dish Network. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what it means to you by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS, or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, or on Facebook at Facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Hope you stayed up late last night. Watch the Oscars, Best Picture of the Year, Birdman. The director of Birdman, Alejandro González Iñárritu. Eddie Redmayne getting the Redmayne, I guess you pronounce it, getting the Best Actor award for The Theory of Everything, and Julianne Moore for her role in Still Alice. Well, it'll be an Oscar award-winning showdown this week as Congress comes back to town. They have until Friday to decide whether or not whether or not they're going to fund the Department of Homeland Security. House Republicans, of course, say they refuse to do so unless President Obama rescinds his executive orders on immigration, which he is not going to do. The Senate doesn't want to do that either. So it's just the House Republicans who may succeed by Friday. They're determined to do so in shutting down the Department of Homeland Security, which means shutting down the Coast Guard, among other agencies, the Coast Guard, the Border Patrol, and the Secret Service. Nice move, John Boehner. Lots to talk about, lots you're going to talk about here on the Bill Press Show. Thanks for being with us this Monday, February 23rd.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
my beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Rudy Giuliani just won't quit. He's out again today on Fox News, attacking President Obama for not loving his country. When are Republicans going to stand up and say, Rudy, shut up? Hello, everybody. What do you say? Nice to see you today. Monday, February 23rd. Here we go. It's a big Monday, the morning after the Oscars, with Congress coming back to town. Lots going on, lots to talk about. That's why it's good to have you with us today on The Bill Press Show here in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Booming out to you on your local progressive talk radio station nationwide, coast to coast. We are there with you wherever you are in this great country of ours. We're also there with you on Free Speech TV, of course. Again, nationwide and worldwide on our video stream of TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR-TV. Thanks so much for joining us. And remember, it's not just your job to listen and absorb and swallow whatever we say. No. We want you to be active participants in the conversation because it means a lot to us and to others to hear what you think about the issues of the day. So express your opinion. Be part of the show by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS, 866-55-77-377. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Hope you had a good weekend. Didn't stay up too late last night watching the Oscars. We'll see. All of us are dragging a little bit here, I think, this morning. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Welcome back.
Happy Monday.
Alicia Cruz on the phones, ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Bolding, as always, keeping us looking good on the video, Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. We had some more snow over the weekend in Washington.
Yeah, we did.
A good deal on Saturday.
Yeah, we got a lot of snow.
About, here in town, maybe 4 or 5 inches, I guess. Yeah. Maybe, yeah.
I got about 8 inches out in the suburbs.
Whoa.
It was
But you know, like it started in the morning, a little flurry, and I thought, and then it kept going on and on,
yeah,
and on. Yeah,
a whole day,
all day long. And last night they had the nation's governors who were in town over at the White House for the annual Governor's Ball. The president, the White House grounds, of course, covered with snow. And the president recalled an earlier governor's dinner where when Ronald Reagan was president and the governors came in and it was a blizzard underway. President Obama tells that story.
Hours into the dinner, the food was gone. Everybody was standing around. The snow seemed to keep falling harder and harder, and President Reagan looked out the window and turned to the First Lady and said, "Honey, do we have enough cots?"
Line them up in the East Room. That's where the British troops used to sleep in the East Room during the War of 1812. But President Obama said, mercifully, Saturday night, the snow was no longer a threat.
It looks like the weather's cleared up enough that there will not be a pajama party here in the Blue Room tonight.
That would have been a fun time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Chris Christie, Scott Walker, all scrambling, putting on their onesies. Oh, think of that picture, right?
No thanks.
No, right. Or what were those pajama grams? The
hoodie footy.
Hoodie footy.
The hoodie footies. Yes,
the hoodie
indeed.
footy, yeah.
The hoodie footy.
I see Chris Christie and his hoodie footy. There we go. All right, lots coming up here. Scott Bland will join us this hour, as he always does, on a Monday from National Journal, the National Journal Hotline. And then he'll be followed by reporters for Huffington Post, for Politico, for Defense One, and from the Washington Post. We got it covered today. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Congratulations to Joey Logano. He won a 2-lap shootout to win the Daytona 500 yesterday, as Jeff Gordon is on his way out. He's retiring soon. This is his last big race. It ended in a last lap crash. Joey Logano is the second youngest winner of the Daytona 500 at only 23 years old.
Whoa, really?
Guy can barely drive.
Yeah.
That was a really exciting race. Because not only was there was a crash at the last lap, but then there was also a crash maybe on the third. They had 3 more laps to go, and it really they had to.
This whole thing?
No, just the last 15 laps.
I didn't know we had a closet NASCAR fan on the show.
I used to shoot video for NASCAR, so I've been to Daytona. It's kind of an exciting thing.
Who knew?
Who knew?
Yeah,
right. There we go.
You go. I didn't watch the Daytona 500.
Nor did I.
But congratulations to Joey Logano. Silicon Valley has rolled out a new product. It's a company that started out as working on computers, but they say that they have come up with the perfect toothpaste. It's called Livionex, and they have put together this whole study that showed that their product shows a 260% reduction in plaque index, a 229% reduction in gingivitis, and 232% reduction in gum bleeding compared to other leading toothpastes on the market. Here's the thing, though. It costs $20 for a 1.7-ounce tube.
Oh, my God.
So it's very, very expensive, but they say that it is revolutionary in the way that it works.
It'll get cheaper. It'll get cheaper.
I imagine it will get cheaper.
To put it on the market. Huh. Well, again, the toothpaste that I want is a toothpaste that just cleans your teeth so you don't have to go in and get somebody to scrape on your teeth twice a year. I hate that.
And the Academy Awards were last night. But before we get to all the winners there, let's take a look at the Razzies. The Razzies were also yesterday. This is a celebration of the worst movies of 2014. And the big winner was Kirk Cameron. His movie Saving Christmas won 4 awards, including Worst Picture and Worst Actor at the 35th Golden Raspberry Award. So congratulations, I guess, to Kirk Cameron.
Put that one on your list.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see that one. Also on the list, Cameron Diaz was named the worst actress for 2 different comedies, The Other Woman and The Sex Tape. And the worst supporting actress went to Megan Fox for the reboot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
It would be kind of fun to go see some of the worst movies. Maybe.
I love bad movies.
I like throw food at the screen.
I wouldn't throw food. I love bad movies. I love bad movies. I watched a part of a bad movie yesterday, the Catwoman movie that they did with horrible movie, but it's so entertainingly bad.
Yeah, if it's that bad, it can be.
It can be entertaining. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's get to the real show. Yes, indeed. The Oscars last night, and whether you stayed up late to watch or not, you know sort of how things turned out. We'll bring you up to date on it. I'd love to get your comments. I got to say, I have to start by saying, we talked about this a little bit earlier, and I think we mentioned it Friday. I hate the fact that the Oscars, like the Super Bowl, are on Sunday. I mean, most Americans go back to work on Monday, right?
Yeah.
You got Friday night, you could afford to stay up late. Saturday night, you could afford to stay up late, right? Sleep in, big deal. Sunday, you got to get up Monday morning and go to work. So they start the Oscars then. So, number one, it's on Sunday. I just got to get this bitch off.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And then it doesn't start until 8:30. Why? Because they have an hour and a half of the freaking red carpet, which is the lamest hour and a half ever on television. I don't care. I love Robin Roberts, but she's looks like an idiot out there, you know?
That's the worst, is when they take legitimate news people and make who are you wearing tonight?
Yes, right. You know,
It's awful.
I think it was Reese Witherspoon who tweeted ahead of time, please ask me something else. Don't just ask me who I'm wearing, right? But, I mean, the whole thing, and it's all set up, and they have all these phony things, and I mean, who cares, right? But an hour and a half, even, okay, half an hour maybe or something, or none of it. We see them in their seats. We have to see them walk in. Then I also discovered, you know, Lisa pointed this out, that the women come a day ahead of time with their high heels. You know, they carry them, and they practice walking in their high heels on the stage so that they won't flub and trip, and you know, like whoever did last year, I guess. But I mean, the whole thing, just give me a break. Yeah, Saturday night, Friday night, or start it earlier. But I mean, don't put us through that. And once it got started, I got to tell you, I mean, I've watched, I don't know how many Oscars. I don't think last night was one of the best shows overall. I thought it was a long slog. Yeah. It started slow, and it kept up slow. I don't think to me, it never picked up. And I was really excited to see Neil Patrick Harris. I thought,
very mixed reviews this morning. Very, very mixed reviews.
I mean, look, bring back Billy Crystal. You know, God, I thought Billy Crystal was bad. I love DeGeneres. Whoopi Goldberg. I can remember some people I thought were really, really good. This was his first time. Mm-hmm. I thought he'd done it before, but he'd never
done the Oscars.
He'd done the Grammys and the Tonys, I guess, or Emmys,
and the Golden
or
Globes.
Golden Globes, something,
too.
Right?
But always with great reviews, by the way. He does a very, very good job.
Yeah, but boy,
he has in the past.
I think it was awful. He had a couple of kind of, sort of, good one-liners, like. The very first line out of his mouth, I thought was maybe his best line of the night.
Welcome to the 87th Oscars. Tonight we honor Hollywood's best and brightest.
Now, even there, I think you should have paused a little bit. Best and whitest.
Sure.
Let sink in. And I mean, I'm sorry, I meant brightest, but you know, he just. But
at least he addressed it.
He did.
It would have been hard not to.
Right up front, he had a good clip about an outstanding or outrageous dress one woman was wearing.
Takes a lot of balls to wear a dress like that.
A lot of balls to wear a dress like that. And when Citizen 4 won, which I'm glad it did, Best Documentary, by hands down the best documentary of the year, he did point out that even though Edward Snowden's girlfriend was there,
she was there.
Edward Snowden could not be.
The subject of Citizen 4, Edward Snowden, could not be here tonight for some treason.
Ooh.
It's a little too true.
Yeah. Not the treason. It's not true, but he obviously couldn't be there because he's been accused of treason. After that, we get down finally to the winners and losers. Peter, bring us up to date.
All right, so you mentioned Best Documentary Feature. That was Citizen 4 by Laura Poitras. Best Animated Feature was Big Hero 6. Best Director was Alejandro Iñárritu for Birdman. Best Supporting Actor was J.K. Simmons in Whiplash. Supporting Actress Patricia Arquette for Boyhood. Best Actress Julianne Moore for Still Alice. Best Actor Eddie Redmayne for The Theory of Everything. And Best Picture, Birdman.
Yeah. You know, I got to tell you, I just, and we're going to talk to Ann Hornaday from the New York Times, Washington Post in the next hour. I don't think Birdman, it's not the best movie I saw this year, last year or whatever this year. I saw it this year actually, but it was released just before. But I don't understand all the excitement about Birdman.
You know, I'm with you. I think I like Birdman a little bit more than you did. I liked it. I didn't love Birdman. I always appreciate when people do something really different and kind of out there. And I think this movie was really far out there.
It was. People flying to me, it's a little.
Well, it's not based on a true story.
A little unreal. Yeah. No,
it's unreal, but a lot of movies are unreal that are good movies.
But I have to tell you, I think Selma was a better movie. I think The Theory of Everything was a better movie. Mm-hmm. I think The Imitation Game was a better movie.
All on the list. Yeah.
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 Right.
So, I was more shocked, by the way, because I think we both kind of knew that it was going that direction for Birdman. That Best Director went to the director of Birdman.
And
I thought for sure Richard Linklater was going to get that for Boyhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge overlook.
I did too. I also thought, by the way, that the Grand Budapest Hotel got a few awards.
They got a few awards, music and costumes.
And Wes Anderson was in the front row.
Yeah.
He looks like he's 25.
Right.
Yeah.
He's been making movies forever.
I don't think I'd ever seen him before.
Yeah,
but everybody,
He does a couple cameos in some of his older films.
Yeah.
Does he? Yeah. No, but it was let's hear some of the winners. Michael Keaton did not get Best Actor, but of course he was on stage when Birdman got Best Picture.
It was just a tremendous honor for me to look. It's great to be here. Who am I kidding? This is just great fun. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
What career that guy's had?
Oh man, sure ups and downs, huh?
Yeah.
Eddie Redmayne, I thought absolutely deserved Best Actor for. Did you see that one, Peter?
No, that's one of my I hadn't seen.
It.
I know.
He unbelievable.
Yeah.
The way he plays Stephen Hawking's and has that disease, it just degenerates more and more in every clip of the film.
I don't think I'm capable of articulating quite how I feel right now, but please know this. I am fully aware that I am a lucky man.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, and we're lucky that he had that role. Patricia Arquette, supporting actress in Boyhood. Sometimes the Oscars turn into be like political rallies, right? And boy, she got right to it and got a huge reception.
We have fought for everybody else's equal rights. It's our time to have wage equality once and for all and equal rights for women in the United States of America.
Yeah, Meryl Streep jumped to her feet. Yeah, the whole
there you go, man.
The crowd sort of went.
Good for her.
I guess the other good moment for Neil Patrick Harris was when he went out in the crowd and he saw David Oyelowo sitting there, who of course was not nominated, and he said hello to him, and everybody applauded. And Neil Patrick Harris says, "Yeah, now you like him."
Yeah.
Touche. So overall, I don't think it was a great performance on the part of the Academy or Neil Patrick Harris. What do you say about the outcome? Disappointed, or what you expected? 866-55-PRESS. That's what everybody's talking about Monday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all of the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, 27 minutes after the hour, hung over here on a Monday morning after watching the Oscars last night. I must admit, I did not watch until the very, very end.
No way.
No. I always count on Carol to crawl into bed and tell me to
give you the Cliff Notes.
Yeah, Cliff Notes, right. Or catch up with them this morning. But there were some high moments. They had to make fun of John Travolta.
Oh, God, after last year.
After last year. And so Idina Menzel gets her chance now to introduce him.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage my very dear friend, Glom Gazingo.
Perfect. You had a quick comment, Peter?
Pretty good. Yeah, we were on Twitter at BP Show, at BP Show. Phil says, the right-wing outrage over American Sniper not winning anything was pretty classic, especially for what is essentially an anti-war movie. It came away with nothing. They didn't.
It really did. And by the way, I think American Sniper was a much better movie than Birdman. I would not have been disappointed if American Sniper won. I might have voted for it. I thought it was a great movie. And it was a very much an anti-war movie. Brilliantly directed by Clint Eastwood and brilliantly acted by Bradley Cooper, indeed. All right, we'll come up.
This
on the
is the Bill Press Show.
Coming up.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found on the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Documentary Laura Poitras, the producer of that, she's a director, producer, maker, whatever, of that documentary, was there
behind the movie.
On stage. She, of course, did that with Glenn Greenwald and Edward Snowden, most of it filmed in Hong Kong, but a very, very powerful story. And she pointed out last night that her documentary and the work of Edward Snowden really had a profound effect on this country, and what's happening to him is very troubling for people who believe in civil liberties. Here's Laura Poitras.
The disclosures that Edward Snowden reveals don't only expose a threat to our privacy, but to our democracy itself. When the most important decisions being made affecting all of us are made in secret, we lose our ability to check the powers that control.
Yes, obviously very nervous in front of that crowd, but with a very, very important message.
By the way, if you hadn't seen the movie, HBO is showing it tonight.
Really?
Yeah. Tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern, it's going to be on HBO.
Remember, Laura, she's the one that Edward reached out to.
Yeah.
And he called himself Citizen 4.
Yeah. Right, yeah. Yeah, she did, and then she hustled Glenn Greenwald, got him to go with her to Hong Kong. The two of them, neither one of them had ever met Edward Snowden. He said, I'll be the one with the Rubik's Cube in the lobby.
Good grief.
Yeah.
The real James Bond.
Oh no, it's an incredible story. You got to see this documentary. It's unbelievable. But another real life story continues today. Aren't you happy that all three cable channels this morning started their morning show this morning with Rudy Giuliani, who just won't go away, right? And we know how it all started. We talked about it last week, and frankly, I thought we had buried it, right, last week. Rudy will not let it die. He ignores that basic lesson about politicians who get in trouble that we all learned from Bill Clinton. When you're in a hole, first thing to do is stop digging. No, Rudy keeps digging. So it started last week when he was, by the way, he was not invited to this event for Scott Walker at the 21 Club. He was at a different event, and somebody said, hey, I'm going over to this thing for Scott Walker. Why don't you come with me? So, of course, Rudy, there's going to be some more Republican fat cats there, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
free
man.
meal, sure.
Free meal. So he shows up, and they call on him to say a couple of words. This is a dinner honoring Scott Walker, and Rudy uses this opportunity to go on the attack, saying, of course, I do not believe, and I know this is a horrible thing to say, but I do not believe that the president loves America. Well, ever since the firestorm has been raging, but Rudy didn't back down at all. In fact, he doubled down, went on Fox News the next 2 days to say, yeah, remember the president, he talks about the Crusades, but only talks about Christians being bad guys, not the other guys being bad guys. The president is always apologizing for America. The president has never said one good thing about this country. I mean, he's making all these just outrageous, ridiculous, I think almost treasonous comments about the president of the United States. And he kept repeating and repeating. Now he's out again with an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal where he still defends his remarks. He backs down a little bit. He says, obviously, he's gotten some heat. He says, I didn't intend to question President Obama's motives or the content of his heart. But
what is this? Such what a stupid thing to write.
Yeah. But then he says, but he still says, he's right. The president needs to start acting and speaking in a way that draws sharp distinctions between us and those who threaten our way of life. I mean, how can you possibly conclude or make the statement after 6 years of saying that President Obama does not make the distinction between them and us? He's the guy that got Osama bin Laden, remember? He's the guy that has ordered 5,000 airstrikes against ISIS. Remember? Rudy, where have you been? I mean, there's no doubt. There's just no doubt. It's just so ridiculous. But to me, what's so disgusting is not just that Rudy made these remarks, because who cares about Rudy? I mean, seriously, right? I mean, he's a nobody these days. Just somebody. He's a has-been with a big mouth that won't shut up. What's most disgusting to me is the response of his fellow Republicans. Bobby Jindal actually put out a statement, governor of Louisiana. I mean, talk about a second-rate politician, right? Actually put out a statement saying the governor of Louisiana agrees with the former mayor of New York. Michelle Bachmann came out of her hiding hole yesterday or over the weekend to say, Rudy is right. This president doesn't love America.
You're really lining up some winners.
Michelle Bachmann.
Support you.
And Daryl Issa even said, we should thank the mayor for raising this issue. I may not agree with him, but we should thank Rudy Giuliani for raising this issue. Here's what I want to know is, where are the Republicans who are going to stand up and say, Rudy Giuliani is dead wrong? We don't go there in this country. We can disagree on policy issues. We can disagree on what's the best approach to protect this country from terrorist attacks, or the best approach on anything, education or environment or climate change or jobs or whatever. You disagree with all of those things, but you don't go there and say, because he disagrees with me, he doesn't love our country, he's un-American, he's a communist. Yeah, Rudy also says that. Barack Obama was raised as a communist from the age of 9, and that's what's wrong with him. I mean,
it's so old.
It is
such an old and tired.
It is old.
Thing to
it's
say.
tired, and it's just dead wrong. But again, the silence of John Boehner, the silence of John McCain, the silence of Mitch McConnell, the silence of Reince Priebus, the head of the Republican Party, the chair of the Republican Party. Where are they? I have not heard, correct me if I'm wrong, I have not heard one Republican stand up and say Rudy Giuliani was wrong, that Rudy Giuliani is taking politics in this country to a new low, and we reject that kind of politics. Have you?
No.
I mean, I keep waiting for it. You know, we now call it the Sister Souljah moment. This is it. You know, Bill Clinton did a lot of things wrong, but he got this one right. He was there at the Rainbow Coalition. He was there in Jesse Jackson's territory when somebody raised the lyrics that Sister Souljah had been using in her music, and Bill Clinton said that is wrong. We should not go there. I cannot agree with that, and putting that message out there is not good for this country. And he said that right in Jesse Jackson's face and right in Sister Souljah's face. And that's what I think distinguishes somebody like a Bill Clinton from somebody like a Rudy Giuliani or somebody like a John Boehner or a Mitch McConnell. No backbone, no balls, doesn't stand for anything, and will just go with the wind. This is the Sister Souljah moment for the Republican Party, and they've already blown it. Yeah. So, hey, keeping track of all the politics of the day here in Washington and around the country. And there's been a lot going on this week. Our good friend Scott Bland from the National Journal, executive director of the editor-in-chief of the National Journal Hotline, joins us next on The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer. Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
13 minutes before the top of the hour. Indeed. Nation's governors in town this week. And, of course, they include a lot of presidential wannabes on the Republican side. The National Journal Hotline was all over that event, as they are all over every good political event here in Washington, D.C. and around the country. Editor-in-Chief Scott Bland on our newsline again this morning. Hello, Scott.
Good morning.
So among the governors there, Scott Walker got most of the attention, perhaps, and from what I read, didn't come off too well, huh? Had a pretty rough time.
Well, you know, he's been he's been the focus of a lot of the attention lately among the Republican presidential frontrunners.
Right.
He gave that big speech in Iowa in January. It was very well received. Got kind of, you know, a little bit of a sugar high in the polls, if you will, after, and so now has been the focus of a great deal of attention. And so this weekend he was being asked a little bit about President Obama, about his religion, about some other stuff, and he decided to go with the, you know, kind of deflecting the question, I don't know, answer, which you know, he's kind of playing off as a media criticism moment, which is you know, not a bad move for a Republican presidential primary contender, but it's also, you know, it's also not difficult to see kind of a little game that's being played there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's a bad move for anybody. I mean, Dan Balls is a very serious, one of our best reporters in this country, and he asked him, you know, do you think President Obama's a Christian? Scott Walker says, I don't know. What do you mean he doesn't know Obama's a Christian? Everybody knows Obama's a Christian. We've been through that. 6 years ago we went through that whole thing, right? What does he gain by that? And then he says, I don't know about evolution. Yeah, that's not something Republicans or politicians ought to take a stand on. I don't know whether President Obama loves his country. I don't know whom I might appoint as the next chair of the Fed. What does he know about, or what's he willing to talk about?
I guess. Well, that's a question you have to ask him. Maybe he'd say, "I don't know."
Yeah. I guess he'd say, "I don't know." Right, but I just wonder how this helps him be taken seriously. I'm not sure that it does. I also was curious about John Kasich's comment. John Kasich has not made a decision, but Kasich told reporters, right, if any extremist comes to Ohio, they're going to lose.
Mm-hmm. He's another one who's kind of playing a very specific kind of role right now in terms of what he's telling reporters, and he also talked a little bit recently about the idea of possibly setting up a state-run health insurance exchange if the Supreme Court overturns the subsidies for the federal exchanges, and so he is kind of very very clearly trying to stake out some of the more moderate territory in the field should he decide to pull the trigger on a run right now, and that's also been very interesting to watch. I mean, he's not he really has not shied away from any of the stuff in his a lot of the stuff in his record is it's stuff that people also talk about as potential weaknesses for Jeb Bush, right? Having supported Medicaid expansion, some Common Core related stuff, I believe. So that's also been interesting to watch. The one thing about Kasich is that it's a little less clear whether or not he's actually going to run for president, whereas some of the other folks in the field seem to be a little bit closer to actually doing it.
Now, where was Chris Christie this weekend? I mean, he was in town, but I didn't see anything about him. Was he just hiding out?
I heard that he was essentially surrounded, and thus very hard to talk to while there. But he had a pretty bad media week last week, and the last time he had a pretty bad media week was in London, and his team kind of shut things down a little bit and didn't have him talking after, and so I wonder if it was a similar situation.
So he probably just thought lay low, right, and not say anything. And meanwhile, former governor Jeb Bush, I gather, was not in attendance, right? But
that's my understanding.
Must have been a lot of talk about him, though.
Oh, sure. I mean, he's kind of the main talking point right now. The extent to which he's kind of driven the early conversation in the presidential race is really fascinating, and it goes to show that that surprise decision to kind of make the first move and jump in and form committees, start raising money has really worked out well for him. He's not the if he is the front runner, he's a weak front runner. Especially compared to ones in past years, but he's certainly done a good job of kind of sucking up the oxygen, if you will. Not to mention sucking up a lot of money in the early going.
Yeah. Like everybody said about his speech in Chicago, it wasn't the greatest, most dynamic speech he or anybody else has ever given, but he walked away with $4 million from a little event that he had that day. So all in all, it was a good day for him, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, and that's actually something that's going to be interesting to watch in terms of his speaking. It's like, yeah, his speeches aren't really blowing anyone away, and he probably has to work on the delivery a little bit, but it's really interesting to watch when the Q&A portion rolls around. He seems like a different person, and he's really kind of smooth and articulate, and so I imagine the speeches are probably going to get better. So
what he ought to say is, you know what, folks? I decided I'm not going to give a speech today at all. I'm just going to take your questions. First question. Yeah, that's the way to handle that. All right. Hey, Scott, good to start off the week with you. Thanks so much for joining us again.
Thank you.
Scott Bland at the National Journal Hotline, nationaljournal.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan.
And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Parents' Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Darren Samuelsohn from Politico joining us at the top of the next hour in studio. Peter?
We talked about the winners at the Oscars. One thing we didn't talk about is that Wolfgang Puck catered his 21st Governor's Ball, the big party for the Oscar attendees. What did he serve?
Chicken pot pie.
He did serve a chicken pot pie.
Right,
he served a chicken pot pie with black truffles, baked potatoes with caviar, a vegan truffle risotto, a lobster BLT, beet latkes with pastrami duck and apple mustard, and many, many, many different desserts.
It's just amazing that Wolfgang Puck is still going strong.
21 years he's been doing that thing.
Yeah,
crazy.
Absolutely. No, he's a great chef. I got to know him a little bit when I was in L.A.
Nice.
Yeah, right. You know, that's good kind of person to know.
Yeah, exactly.
He takes care of you.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, what do you say, folks? It is a Monday, big Monday, February 23rd, the Bill Press Show. Here we go for another 3 hours of news and commentary. We'll give you the news. We'll give you a little commentary. And we want to hear from you, what you think about it all. That's the fun of our little town hall every day here on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV. That's our worldwide video stream, you know, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKRTV, or Free Speech TV on DirecTV and the Dish Network. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what it means to you by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show. or on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. Hope you stayed up late last night. Watch the Oscars, Best Picture of the Year, Birdman, Best Director, the director of Birdman, Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu. Eddie Redmayne getting the Redmayne, I guess you pronounce it, getting the Best Actor award for The Theory of Everything, and Julianne Moore for her role in Still Alice. Well, it'll be an Oscar award-winning showdown this week as Congress comes back to town. They have until Friday to decide whether or not Republicans whether or not they're going to fund the Department of Homeland Security. House Republicans, of course, say they refuse to do so unless President Obama rescinds his executive orders on immigration, which he is not going to do. The Senate doesn't want to do that either. So it's just the House Republicans who may succeed by Friday. They're determined to do so in shutting down the Department of Homeland Security, which means shutting down the Coast Guard, among other agencies, the Coast Guard, the Border Patrol, and the Secret Service. Nice move, John Boehner. Lots to talk about, lots you're going to talk about here on The Bill Press Show. Thanks for being with us this Monday, February 23rd.
This is The Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years.
That's
That's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years...
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime.
I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live,
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas. I don't really know. I think I'd do anything.
Why are you asking me that?
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Best Picture of the Year, Birdman. Really? Really? Not American Sniper? Not Imitation Game? Not The Theory of Everything? Well, at least it wasn't unanimous. Hello, everybody. What do you say? It is a Monday, February 23rd. Good to see you. Here we are in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and our studio on Capitol Hill, just down the street from the United States Capitol building, where Congress comes back to work today, and they got a big deadline this week. The funding for the Department of Homeland Security runs out end of the week. John Boehner says we're going to shut it down unless President Obama agrees to rescind his executive order on immigration. One a couple of years ago and one last November. That bill will never get past the Senate. President would veto it if it did. So it looks like we're heading toward a shutdown unless Mitch McConnell can convince House Republicans that that's not good for the Republican Party. We'll be following that and all the other news of the week with you and looking forward to hearing from you what you think about it all. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what it means to you as we reach you on your local progressive talk radio station nationwide, coast to coast, and on Free Speech TV, also nationwide, coast to coast, and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. So give us a call at 866-55-PRESS or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. Our team assembled here this morning, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Looking
Happy Monday.
It's the morning after the Oscars.
I didn't have to watch too much of the Oscars. I wasn't up late last night.
It's so dumb, I think, to have it on a Sunday night and not start it until 8:30 East Coast time. I mean,
I know.
Come on.
When you're in the business that we're in, those late nights on Sundays are trouble, man. So same thing with the Super Bowl.
Well, with anybody. I mean, Sunday's a bad night to have a late night, I think. Alicia Cruz is on the phones. Take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And our videographer, Cyprian Bolding, on the job, hard at work, keeping us looking good on Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. And joining us in studio for this half hour, we're pleased to welcome, I think, for his first visit to the show, right?
First in the studio.
First in studio.
Welcome.
Senior policy reporter for Politico, Darren Samuelsohn. Hey, Darren, nice to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, ready to go. Were you a Oscar watcher last night? No?
I was watching The Walking Dead.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
They just pulled into, not to be a spoiler alert, but they are just outside of the Beltway now.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
In
I haven't TiVoed.
Alexandria, Virginia. Sorry.
That's right. No, it's okay.
Was that right?
I knew that was coming now.
All right. Oh, okay. You can bring us up to date on that.
Great show. Great television.
Last night, there were several good remarks, good speeches in terms of picking up the award. Most people believe, and I did too, that the one that really touched Patricia Arquette was great when she got equal rights for women, equal pay for women. She got a rousing applause. Graham Moore for the best adapted screenplay. Best adapted screenplay, right, for Imitation Game. A young man who pointed out to the crowd that when he was 16, he had actually was feeling so depressed he actually contemplated suicide, and yet he kept going, and now here he is on stage, maybe 10 years later, picking up an Oscar.
Stay weird, stay different, and then when it's your turn and you are standing on the stage, please pass the same message to the next person who comes along. Thank you so much.
Stay weird.
Stay weird.
Stay different. Yeah, it was a great moment, and well deserved. Great movie, I thought, Imitation Game. So we're going to get into some of the politics of the day with Rudy Giuliani not giving up, still digging deeper and deeper in that hole that he dug himself in last week. Darren Samuelsohn was the man who broke the story about Rudy Giuliani's comments about President Obama not loving America. Darren, we want to hear all about that. And Hornaday joins us at the half hour from the Washington Post. Of course, the leading film critic for the Washington Post. Give us our take on the Oscars last night. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
You know who else won at the Oscars last night? Everybody who attended, because in the gift bag, the swag bag, it was the biggest one ever in Oscars history. In fact, it doubled the value of what last year's was. It added up to a total of $168,000 worth of swag inside the gift bags. Business Insider has the whole rundown of everything that is in there. It includes a $12,500 camping trip, unlimited Audi car rentals for a year. That's valued at $20,000. They were given a bottle of maple syrup worth $280. Jesus. A $1,500 VIP tour of a private sea salt reserve in the south of France. And lower ticket items, they had herbal tea-based lollipops adorned with 24-karat gold leaf valued at $68 for a lollipop.
Wait, these were in the swag bag, right?
All in the swag bag.
So one swag bag. These are not just for the winners? Everybody who attended?
Everybody who was nominated and presented. It's not everybody who was actually in, but if any of the nominees, any of the presenters, they got that. Also notable inside the bag, a $9 bag of Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Celebrities, they're just like us.
Yeah. I want to know what a $12,000 camping trip looks like.
Yeah, right? That's more like glamping than camping.
You go to Yosemite, but you stay at the Ahwahnee Hotel.
Right, there you go. Yeah. In Jerusalem, their mayor, Nir Barkat, was riding along in a motorcade when he saw a man with a knife attempting to attack people in the street. His bodyguard leapt out of the motorcade, pointed a gun at the man with a knife. The man dropped the knife, but then the mayor of Jerusalem leapt out of his car and pinned the man to the ground until more forces could come by. He had dropped the knife. The attacker had dropped the knife. But the mayor himself leapt out, grabbed him, subdued him until more force was able to get there and back him up.
Like that.
Sounds like a Cory Booker moment.
The Cory Booker.
No, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
He's getting things done, man.
Right.
And congratulations to Michael Phelps, 29-year-old most decorated Olympic athlete of all time. He got engaged over the weekend to Nicole Johnson, former Miss California. She was Miss California in 2010. She has dated Michael Phelps on and off for a couple years now, and so he posted a picture of them rolling around in the snow and just said she said yes.
I thought he was gay.
Michael Phelps?
Yeah, I'm confusing him with...
You're thinking of confusing him with someone else.
Yeah, another Olympic diver, swimmer, something. Okay.
You might be thinking of Greg Louganis.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Peter. So, Darren, first of all, you were there at the 21 Club.
I was.
Last Tuesday, Wednesday.
Wednesday night.
Wednesday night.
Midtown Manhattan.
Right. I've been there. Had lunch there once. How did you manage to get in there? You were following Scott Walker around?
No, I was not following Scott
He's a
Walker
member of
around.
Code Pink.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm covering the 2016 presidential campaign. I'm working on sort of a deeper dive feature story that still hasn't published yet. And it brought me there. I basically scored an invite to this dinner. And I was there ostensibly reporting a larger story and had my notebook, ready just in case anything that Scott Walker was going to say.
Right. So the dinner was was it a fundraiser for Scott Walker?
It was not a fundraiser, no. I've seen that reported in a number of places. It wasn't a fundraiser. It was sort of more of a meet and greet. This was a dinner organized by Art Laffer, Larry Kudlow, and Stephen Moore from the Heritage Foundation.
God, I know all three of them.
I'm sure you do. So Kudlow, Laffer, and Stephen Moore have known each other for a very, very long time, supply-side economists. And they have been hosting these. This was the second one. They did one with Rick Perry that George Pataki crashed last month at the same club. And then here they had Scott Walker in. About 60 people ultimately were there sitting around a very, very, very large table upstairs.
Now, how did Rudy Giuliani end up there?
I believe one of the sponsors, I'm going to mispronounce his last name, John Castamadis, I believe, or something.
I know who you mean.
The CEO of the very largest grocery store there in New York City. From what I've understood, he has said that he ran into Mayor Giuliani earlier in the day and invited him to come along. I was, sort of with someone who was hosting the event all day and watching as well as people were getting invited and invited. So, I think they only intended to have 20 or 30 people there. It was ultimately 60. So people were getting invitations left and right throughout the day.
Now, it's a dinner sort of honoring or to hear from Scott Walker.
Correct.
How did Rudy Giuliani end up stealing the show?
Well, at one point, they went around the room and asked everybody to introduce themselves. And so everyone, there was Senator Aldamato was there, former Congressman Vito Fossella was there.
Aldo, who else?
Vito Fossella, former congressman.
Get out, really?
No, it was a very well-attended event.
Certainly a colorful group.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Probably a lot of good stories.
To say the least. Most people didn't speak, as they went around the room. Most just introduced their names. D'Amato did speak. And they went around the room once, and actually Rudy wasn't there for the first introduction. And then Larry Kudlow, the co-host, was sort of moderating, and there was going to be, so Scott Walker gave about a 10-15-minute speech to sort of relay his views on a variety of subjects. And then there was going to be a Q&A, about an hour-long Q&A. And Art Laffer asked the first question. It was a question with respect to, I believe, free trade. And the governor answered that, and then at that point is when Larry Kudlow sort of stopped the Q&A, and I guess at that moment recognized that Giuliani was there. And I had seen him at some point sitting there, and it registered in my mind. I hadn't seen him in the mingling before the dinner started. So he had come in at some point there, and said, "Mayor Giuliani, the America's mayor, Saturday Night Live star, please feel free to give some remarks." And so the mayor spoke for, I'd say, 5 minutes. And kind of, it was about a minute and a half into his remarks when he made the quote that kind of everyone, I don't know if everyone perked up in terms of their ears. Mine certainly did when I heard what he said. And then
now, was this an off-the-record dinner?
It was a little confusing. I have to say, as a reporter,
it's not off the record now.
No, it's certainly not off the record now. And I will say, coming into the dinner, no, it was never explained to me that it was off the record. Never was it announced that it was off the record to the entire group there. There was a half dozen, maybe a little bit more journalists who were in the room as well. Bill Hemmer from Fox News was there. John Stossel from ABC was there. Several other reporters from the New York Daily News, New York Post, Reuters were there. So in a room with that many reporters, even if it is off the record, Rich Lowry from National Review was there. So there was enough reporters there that you had to expect that things would get out. So at some point when Governor Walker was speaking, someone came over and whispered in my ear that Walker was off the record. Just Walker was off the record, which if you're a reporter, that
murky, man.
You need to be kind of told that things are off the record and have an opportunity to discuss it before before you agree to it.
Not while in the middle of while he's speaking, right?
Exactly. And then as well, I'm looking around the room and there's all these other reporters and I'm wondering, well, are they all getting the exact same guidance as I am? And so Giuliani to my knowledge, was never off the record. And I went and I asked the person who invited me after the thing was all over if Giuliani was off the record, just to make sure. And I was told no, he was on the record for sure. So I left the dinner, ran back to my hotel to write the story with the impression that Walker was off the record, but Giuliani was not, and everybody else that was speaking was
But you
not.
also said that you caught up with Giuliani, right?
Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, I wasn't going to just let Giuliani's remarks stand on their own. I was going to go make sure that I heard what I thought I heard. And so I ran, caught him as he went down the stairs, just by the bar there, and asked him to repeat. And I basically asked him, why did you say that? Why do you really think that the president doesn't love America? And he gave me a longer answer. The quote is in the story as well. He kind of went on to describe the president's remarks at the National Prayer Breakfast, and repeated himself again there. And we talked for maybe 7 or 8 minutes. I asked him again, are you planning to endorse anybody in the presidential race? And he indicated, not yet. He wants to hear people out. The remarks earlier, that the ones that kind of sparked this entire controversy, he was, amid everything that he was saying, he was, I think, saying as well that, Governor Walker, I'm really impressed with what you're doing. I'm not sure if I'm going to endorse you yet, but I'm looking for someone who loves America, was one of the points that he was trying to get across.
Now, did you then go to Scott Walker and say, do you agree with Governor Giuliani, or with Mayor Giuliani?
I did not. Scott Walker was in a very tight group of people shaking hands after it was all said and done, and quickly escorted out to his car.
You didn't have that opportunity.
I didn't have the opportunity. I would have loved to, but the fact that Walker's people were so insistent on it being off the record, it just gave me that slight second of pause there as he was running out.
How about the other people who were there? What was their reaction? Did they have any idea that Rudy Giuliani had just thrown a stink bomb into the national political debate?
I don't think so. The one person who I checked with to make sure that things were on the record, off the record, indicated that he had heard Rudy Giuliani say that before, which then prompted me to go on a mad Googling search to make sure that indeed these comments hadn't been reported before. And I had seen other things that Giuliani had recently said that had been pretty controversial, but never could I find anything where he had explicitly said Obama doesn't love America. And that's when we realized we had a pretty
How long did it take
story.
you to get this up for Politico?
We were up at 11:30. Let's see, the dinner ended about 10:15, 10:30. My hotel was luckily a block and a half away, so I was able to just quickly get back and transcribe and just kind of make my way through my notes. I mean, it was a lot of shorthand and trying to figure out exactly what was there, and we were up, about 11:30.
Damn,
That's
good.
booking it, man.
That is, right. Did you expect the reaction you got?
No, I did not. I mean, I knew it was a good story. I would actually have to say we were a little bit on the fence in terms of publishing. Just in that, it's 11:30 at night. It's Mayor Giuliani, so, he's not exactly in the news per se in the moment. This was a Walker event. The murkiness of the off-the-record aspects. But ultimately, we pulled the trigger, and I'm really glad that we did.
Yeah. I mean, that story just took off like that.
Yeah, I knew. I mean, I looked at my phone at maybe 1 in the morning, and the way that I knew that this thing took off was just looking at my Twitter mentions. Normally a story that I write, 3, 5, 6 mentions. I think I had like 75 within 40 minutes. When I woke up the next morning, there was like 250, 300, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And then, once you started looking at I think the New York Daily News was up at about 1:45 a.m. with a version of the story, and this is kind of where the story kind of takes another turn. They actually published some of Scott Walker's quotes. We had explicitly in our story not quoted Scott Walker.
Record,
We had said in our story with Giuliani that Walker was not someone that we were, that Walker aides insisted he would be off the record. Once the New York Daily News, which led with Giuliani and then secondarily had a quote from Walker talking about how Romney had stumbled on the economy, we decided to actually, the next morning, go ahead and publish a lot more.
Hold it right there, and we'll wrap it up when we come back here. Oh, what a fascinating story. Oh, man. It's your whole career there one night at the 21 Club. Darren Samuelsohn from Politico, senior policy reporter. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Darren Samuelsohn from Politico, senior policy reporter, Politico.com, of course, in studio with us, a man who broke the story on Rudy Giuliani, saying last week that President Obama does not love America. One thing for sure, Darren, just about 30 seconds here. Rudy has not backed down.
He has not backed down. No, he was on Fox and Friends, I think, the next morning.
This morning again.
And this morning in the Wall Street Journal with an op-ed. I mean, he's all week just been, and talking to the New York Times, just standing firm on his comments, trying to elaborate on them, trying to clarify them. But clearly, no, he has not backed down one bit from what he said to the room on Wednesday night.
Are you surprised that more Republicans haven't stood up and said, no, Rudy, that's wrong?
It's been an interesting mix of Republican perspective, from Bobby Jindal saying that he agreed with the gist of it, but a lot of Jeb and Rubio and Rand Paul saying let's move on to a different part of the discussion.
So good to have you with us, Darren. Thanks for coming in.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. When I say dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go now at 33 minutes after the hour on a Monday, February 23rd. All of us sort of hung over here this morning. And after all, it's the morning after the Oscars, and they do it on a Sunday night just to punish us, I think, by getting us off to a bad start in the work week. But we don't complain. Ann Hornaday has to do this every night of the week, just about. Ann Hornaday, chief movie critic for the Washington Post, on our newsline this morning. Hi, Ann. How are you?
Good morning. Is it morning already?
Yeah, right. Pulling all nighter.
Unless you stayed up all night, yeah.
Practically.
Before we talk about the winners and losers, overall, how was the show? Do you think?
Oh, yeah, it wasn't my favorite. I'll be honest with you. I had high hopes for Neil Patrick Harris because he's such an all-rounder. You know, I mean, he's such a consummate song and dance man.
Yeah.
And he's done a great job with the other things he's hosted. But somehow it didn't work. The writing fell flat. The jokes really fell flat. I thought that briefcase thing was just a non-starter.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. It kind of went downhill from there. So
it was silly.
I loved the everything was awesome. I wasn't crazy about that song, but I loved the production number. I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
You mean the opening production number?
Yeah, the opening was good, and then everything was awesome. And Glory, I mean, the musical numbers actually, which sometimes can be the butts of jokes, those ended up being pretty cool.
Yeah, they did. I mean, there seemed to be almost more focus and attention to the music than some of the
I've
other
read
stuff.
a lot more about the musical performances than anything else between John Legend and Lady Gaga and all that stuff.
Yeah, and even Adam Levine. I mean, I'm not that. Anyway, we can go on and on, but that's true. The music really stood out this year.
I don't even know because I didn't stay till the bitter end. How long? Yeah, right. How long was the whole show?
Oh, it was 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours.
Yep, because it started at 8:30. Why they start that late, I'll never know. But it started at 8:30.
Yeah.
And it ended right at the chimes of midnight. So.
Oh man.
And of course they backload it, so you're sitting there slogging through all these little tiny things. I don't know why. Somebody's got to come in there and fix the flow because the show flow is all off. And then the in memoriam sequence was lovely, but then they kind of add a beautiful song from Jennifer Hudson that just felt like a gratuitous. Who needs do it during the thing? I mean, I don't know why they pace it the way they do.
But how many years have we been saying somebody's got to come in and fix this show?
I know. Well, they thought these two producers were going. That was their brief, and I'm not sure that I can tell little differences around the edges, but. They really need to go in and redistribute these awards throughout the night.
Absolutely. And by the way, and agree with you on Neil Patrick Harris. I was really disappopeed too. I just
But I think he was poor. He was ill-served by the writing.
He did not have.
He's great. I mean, I think give him good material, and he'll.
But he did not have good material, and he did not deliver it that well.
Right. No.
Now, when you look at the winners and losers, any surprises for you?
Well, I wasn't expecting Birdman to go quite that hard. I thought that at least original screenplay might go to the Grand Budapest Hotel, just because I thought it was getting so much love from the industry. I mean, they clearly really love that little movie, and I thought that would have been a nice way to recognize it. And I was really still rooting for Richard Linklater for director. I mean, I had a feeling that Birdman would take Best Picture, but I really thought they would at least reward Rick's commitment and vision. And I mean, I'm shocked that they didn't go for him for that award. I'm shocked. But
Boyhood wasn't my favorite movie, but the commitment and the vision that he had to pull that off was amazing.
Right. I know, and I do feel like even though people might not have connected to it personally, that they could at least respect that. That they could, they would see fit to vote for it purely on those grounds, and they didn't. And and I was surprised at that Whiplash showed as well as it did. Like, I thought that Boyhood would get editing. I was sure Boyhood would get editing.
Right.
For, Sandra O'Dare for that. That was just such a gargantuan, monumental project. But Little Whiplash, a movie I didn't like as much as most people, ended up coming in for that, and of course supporting actor, which was expected, and sound design. So.
And American Sniper just got it wiped out, right?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I thought that it's hard to see where it would have snuck in. Some people were calling it for that sound mixing. Like that it would take 2 sound awards instead of just that one. But when you look at the other categories, I'm not quite sure where you would have put it, But I think they really did want to at least recognize it as both an artistic achievement and a commercial one. But it was a really crowded field this year.
It was. I was really pleased to see Eddie Redmayne get the Best Actor. And you? I thought he was tremendous in that Theory of Everything.
It was. I mean, that was the most crowded field because I would have been happy to see Michael Keaton win. And frankly, I actually would have been happy to see Bradley Cooper win.
Same here. Same here.
It's like, he did it. He really So that was the most competitive category by far. But I'm with you about Eddie. I mean, I've been, the first time I saw Eddie Redmayne was an HBO movie where he played Julianne Moore's son.
Huh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They played, she played a very wealthy woman, and
he looks young enough to play her son today. I mean,
it's true, but it's so funny. They both won last night,
Yeah.
and that was the first time he kind of entered my consciousness, and I've been a fan ever since, and so I'm really happy to see him get this. It's nice.
Mm-hmm. Things always get a little political. Not always, but the moment last night was, of course, Patricia Arquette. Here she is.
We have fought for everybody else's equal rights. It's our time to have wage equality once and for all, and equal rights for women in the United States of America.
Right, she had the right crowd.
It sounds so simple when she says it.
Yeah, right. I know.
Doesn't it just make utter and complete sense?
But that was and that was the right crowd for that message, man. I'll tell you, right?
That was amazing. I mean, that was by far the earliest galvanizing moment, and I thought it was really, and it was cool to go to Meryl Streep, jumping up and down.
Yes.
Supporting.
Right.
I mean, there was clearly this year going in, I think people had a really heightened consciousness to gender and race diversity within the industry, within the Academy itself. So she was absolutely striking a chord that was ready to be, hit. And then the other one to me that moved me was the performance of Glory, and then John Legend and Common Speeches. I mean, that was just a gorgeous, two beautiful moments that I felt like the politics were really organic. I mean, they seemed to really be coming from a very organic place. They weren't, it wasn't like a ribbon campaign or something like that. It just felt like people responding to the zeitgeist and to their times and to the reality, the reality they're seeing. And so I liked that.
I thought that the Citizen 4, too, that was a bold statement. First of all, I didn't see a lot of those other documentaries, but that was an outstanding documentary. And I thought there was a very powerful message and statement there by it walking away with the Oscar.
I agree. And, it's like, again, usually we're all complaining about the speeches the next day, right?
Yeah.
And this year they were the high point, and also that was true of the Golden Globes. I was really impressed with the speeches at the Golden Globes. I don't know if people, they're using that time and that platform really well, very artfully, and I think that they're understanding that it's a performance. It's its own kind of performance, and they're tailoring it. And when it works, it just works as a great piece of oratory, really.
Yeah.
However brief.
The very first one, J.K. Simmons, that was interesting. He sort of set the tone for the night. Do we have that, Elisa, there? Yeah, here he is. He talked about his wife and his kids and his parents, and then he segued into...
Call your mom, call your dad. If you're lucky enough to have a parent or two alive on this planet, call them. Don't text, don't email. Call them on the phone. Tell them you love them and thank them and listen to them for as long as they want to talk to you. Thank you. Thank you, Mom and Dad.
That was really nice. Not political, but it really wasn't. I thought it was great.
He's awesome, by the way. He's been around for a long time. He played a really nasty character on a TV show called Oz many years ago. Just a brutal character.
Huh.
And he's had these weird roles. He's the voice of the yellow M&M on the M&M commercials. And he's just this cool guy, and I'm so happy to see him win.
See, I know him mostly as the guy on Law and Order. That's how ancient I am. And then the insurance commercials. But I think it's always nice to see, he's middle-aged. Julianne Moore isn't 12. I mean, it's nice to see these veteran actors get some recognition.
I was impressed that when he got up on the stage, he got a really, really big round of applause. Obviously, people there really like him. They've known his work for a long time, and he was a
Yep. He's a journeyman actor. That doesn't surprise me that he got such a rousing. As would have Michael Keaton had he won. It's that same kind of ethos, that work ethic that's being rewarded, and that style. Just that very down to earth.
So how do you think Birdman is going to hold up over the years after it won Best Picture? Good
question. I mean, I enjoyed it. to me, it was more of a, I enjoyed it, but I wasn't clamoring to see it again. It didn't,
Right.
I think it's a clever concept, and I do think it has content. I think there is some substance there. I'm not sure how profound it is, as opposed to something like a Boyhood, which was such a technical and artistic, it was so ambitious technically and artistically, and had that emotional core that I think will stand the test of time. So, but I do think that, you can't gainsay the pleasure principle, just how much fun it is to watch something like a Birdman unfold, as that simulated one shot with that extraordinary score and those extraordinary performances. I mean, it's a bravura gesture, but yeah, that's a good question about time to come. Like, I'm not sure how, but it is of its era in terms of the anxieties it's touching on regarding technology and obsolescence and, this Hollywood ethos of the tent poles and all of that. So it's very much, I think it's valuable. I think it has value in terms of reflecting our era.
Now, and just a quick question. You've been so busy with all these screenings and stuff. I don't know whether you've had a chance to see this week's New Yorker magazine. No?
No.
Well, check out an article, and we'll talk about it next time we talk, by the it's economics editor, James Soriecki, who I think is fabulous.
Me too.
And he has an article there about the cluster theory of when they release movies. And, the studios basically release them all right in the summer or like right before Christmas, and then January is always dead,
Exactly, yeah.
But there's some studios that are breaking away from this cluster theory. I think it's very, very interesting how they're maybe misreading the viewing audience. So
and that's I will read it with interest, and that's I do an annual get-together at the museum every Oscar week, every Oscar weekend every year, and that's very much on people's minds, people like, us grown-ups who like to go to the movies and want something to see are starved almost all year until that award season, and then we can't keep up.
That's right.
So it's something, and that's something George Clooney tried to do last year with Monuments Men. I mean, that was, and bless his heart. I mean, the movie might not have worked perfectly, but I give him a lot of, but it actually did pretty well, and I give him credit for trying to blaze that trail. I mean, there have been a few hardy, schools who have been trying to buck that trend. So I'll read that with interest. Yeah, we can talk about it.
Check it out. We'll talk about it next time. Thanks, Ann, so much.
Thanks a million, guys.
Of all mornings, having to get up early for us. It just shows, greater love than this no woman hath. Right. Ann Hornaday, WashingtonPost.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. Truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Oh boy, we're just getting started. In the next hour, the executive editor of Defense One, Kevin Barron, will be here in studio with us to tell us, among other things, about the big threat received over the weekend for people who might be shopping at the Mall of America. Peter, you and I have been there.
Yeah, that's right. We have.
Just outside of Minneapolis.
The Mini-app.
Right. And also we'll be joined by Zach Carter, senior political economy reporter for the Huffington Post. On the political front, our good friend, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Bernie.
He was out in Iowa, again, testing the waters this weekend. He, unlike Elizabeth Warren, he's actually exploring a possible run for president. And he said, you know, his goal, if he runs, would be to be a voice for the people who have none.
I just think that out there are so many people who are hurting, so many people who are disillusioned, so many people who are really viscerally upset that they're working longer hours for low wages and the billionaires are getting richer. And they need a voice.
And Senator Sanders knows, we've talked about it with him here on the show, that he will not have the big bucks that Hillary would have. But particularly in a state like Iowa and New Hampshire, you can beat the big bucks if you have a lot of grassroots support. And that's what he is looking for.
Before I make that decision, I have to develop a sense in my own gut as to whether or not there is the grassroots support across this country.
And, you know, I think Bernie would get a lot of grassroots support.
I do too.
Yeah. People who want to see somebody take on the system. People want to see some new ideas, new face. Now, Bernie's not a young face, but he's a new face in national politics. And he's the Elizabeth Warren school of politics, if you will, too. Income inequality, middle class economics, raising the minimum wage, all those important issues. a living wage. That's what they've been talking about forever.
Bernie talks the talk, and he can back it up. He walks the walk. He's been doing this for a long time.
Right, absolutely. And I think people are looking for that. He sort of has the Ron Paul appeal on the left.
There you go.
So I think actually Bernie could get a big kiddie crusade almost going for him. College kids get excited about Bernie and Bernie's ideas and Bernie's priorities. So go, Bernie, go. President Obama, busy day today. We'll tell you all about it when we come back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, 2 hours almost down. Hour number 3 coming up. Remember, those of you on Free Speech TV, you got to take a break here and watch on delay at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central. Or you can jump over right away to our video stream, which continues to air the show live. That's youtube.com/TawkrTV. And in the next hour, we'll find out all the latest with ISA and what this threat means to the Mall of America from Kevin Barron, executive editor for Defense One, here in studio with us. And we'll check out the latest on Capitol Hill with Zach Carter from Huffington Post. Hour number 3 coming up.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like it back?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat the threat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
Kevin Barron from Defense One at the top of the next hour. After terrorist organizations over the weekend issued a warning for Americans shopping at the Mall of America. How real is that? What should we be doing about it? And then Zach Carter from Huffington Post joins us a little bit later. President Obama has got a full plate today. 10 o'clock this morning, he and the Vice President get their daily briefing, and then the President will be meeting with the nation's governors, National Governors Association, in the state dining room where they had their big dinner last night. Today, a business meeting in the state dining room, after which the President and the Vice President meet for lunch outside of the Oval Office, in the private dining room outside the Oval Office, next door to the Oval Office. And then the president goes over to AARP this afternoon to announce a new consumer protection program for seniors. Then this evening, he will participate in an ambassador credentialing ceremony in the Oval Office. We have our briefing today at 12 noon.
This is the Bill Press Show.
West here reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now. Please.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Best Picture of the Year. It's Birdman, say the Academy. Says the Academy. Can we ask for a recount? I'm not sure I agree with that. Maybe I'll just file a minority report. Hello, everybody. Morning after the Oscars, Monday, February 23rd. Great to see you today. Welcome to the Bill Press Show here. Good to see you on your local progressive talk radio station. Good to see you on Free Speech TV. Good to see you worldwide on TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Thanks so much for joining us this Monday, post-Oscar Monday, February 23rd, as we bring you up to date on all the news of the day. And, of course, Congress comes back to town today, where the big challenge is, will they find a way to fund the Department of Homeland Security beyond Friday, the deadline, when funds run out, or are Republicans in the House going to succeed in shutting it down? Mitch McConnell doesn't want that. President Obama doesn't want that. The American people don't want that. John Boehner and Tea Party Republicans in the House want that. We'll see who wins that battle. Again, good to have you with us. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number, so you can tell us what you think about the issues of the day. And you can send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Here we go with Team Press here, Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy.
Happy Monday.
Hey, good morning.
Late night with the Oscars, huh? Yeah.
I didn't bother staying up super late to watch the Oscars. I just couldn't be bothered. Yeah.
It's always sad because you get into it and then you have to go to bed.
But, Ann is absolutely...
But I'll say, they leave the good stuff until the very end.
That's what I was saying. Ann Hornaday, who we talked to last hour, was right on the money. They start out with a big-ish award. It's always either supporting actor or actress.
Yeah, right.
And then they spend what seems like an eternity with costume design awards and sound mixing and all of this just schlock.
And a lot of musical numbers. Some of which were very good. Right.
But you could cut it in half, So easily.
And they also, our bitch this morning is that they do it on a Sunday night, which is the worst possible night. And it doesn't start, because you have to have an hour and a half for the stupid red carpet. It doesn't start until 8:30. Started at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it was 3.5, dragged on for 3.5 hours,
That's a
too.
long haul.
That's a long
super
haul as
long
well.
haul.
And Alicia Cruz is here, too, on the phones. And Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, of course, keeping us looking good on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV. So we we have a guest this half hour who just showed up here.
You haven't introduced him yet. He's been waiting and waiting, Bill.
I know. That's why I was laughing. But Kevin Barron, our good friend, executive editor of Defense One, back in studio with us this morning. Hey, Kevin, good to see you.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good to see you, Kevin.
Good to be here on time.
Timing is everything, right?
Timing is.
If you're here when Bill introduces you, you're on time.
You're on
Good.
time. Exactly right.
Good.
Did you stay up and watch Oscars last night?
I did. Yes.
Oh, you did. Oh,
unfortunately.
man. Yeah.
That was a long one.
It was. Right.
This is brutal.
Can't believe you made it all the way to the end.
John Travolta is. What happened to John Travolta?
He's a mess. He's a mess.
I mean,
you know what happened? I think Scientology.
Yeah.
Right. There were some high moments. Eddie Redmayne with an incredible performance, portraying Stephen Hawking in the film, picked up the Best Actor, well deserved, I think.
I don't think I'm capable of articulating quite how I feel right now, but please know this. I am fully aware that I am a lucky, lucky man.
I mean, talk about a hard role to play. That's an incredible performance. And the night, maybe the most stirring moment of the night, Patricia Arquette making a bold stand for women's rights in that room with Meryl Streep leading the cheers.
Yeah.
We have fought for everybody else's equal rights. It's our time to have wage equality once and for all and equal rights for women in the United States of America.
Yeah, seize the moment, huh?
Yeah, I love the big speech from Alabama. Remember her?
Oh,
True Romance?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
So what happened to American Sniper?
You know, American Sniper, it's a war movie, you know? I was reminded this morning, Saving Private Ryan didn't win Best Picture. It lost to Shakespeare in Love, which in hindsight, I don't know if that may have been the right choice.
Yeah, right.
But, you know, American Sniper, I saw American Sniper. I loved it. I saw Birdman. I loved it, and I didn't see anything else. You know, I have small children and a busy schedule, and so I just saw Glengarry Glen Ross. You know, so
you hadn't seen that before. Yo,
I'm catching up.
That is so good.
You got a long way to go to catch up. Yeah,
but yeah,
no, I was disappointed.
It's a war movie.
Sniper. Yeah, but it's an anti-war movie too. So
it is an anti-war
movie. That might appeal
movie.
to Hollywood, right? But
it might. But look at the movie that won, Birdman.
Really, really good.
He was great.
Phenomenal.
He was phenomenal. So was Michael Keaton. But, you know, Birdman is half the movie is about being anti bang 'em up, shoot 'em up, big Hollywood movies. And even the American Sniper being half of it is this tender home front story, and the other half is just a big war movie.
Yeah. No, I thought Birdman was a little self-indulgent for the Academy to choose Birdman as the most.
Wait a minute. I think you just pinpointed why it did so well.
Exactly. Oh, yeah.
Hollywood is too obvious.
Yeah, right.
Yes. Says Washington.
Right.
The Mall of America. You may want to at least don't rush out there right away until we hear from Kevin Barron on what that whole thing means. Here this first half hour, and then we'll be joined by Zach Carter from Huffington Post at the half hour. But first,
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. I'm here to shoot down rumors, Bill, because rumors were flying that actress Emma Watson was dating Prince Harry.
Princess Hermione.
Yes, no, that's that. People were freaking out. They thought it was going to happen. They thought they were dating. She actually took to Twitter over the weekend to make sure everybody knew they are not actually dating. They were spotted together. They was just
friends.
an event. They're just friends. They're both British. That's about it. So they are not. We're not going to have a Princess Hermione. I'm sad to say. Mentioning the Academy Awards, in their in memoriam segment where they talked about all of the actors and actresses.
About Harry. He's a Randy kind of guy. He could God knows where Harry's going to end up.
Oh, yeah. Who even knows? I'm not sure I want to know.
He's going to marry an Egyptian lawyer when he's 55. There you go.
He's the next generation.
We should all be so lucky.
Yeah. The Academy Awards last night, they did their big in memoriam segment where they talked about all of the filmmakers and actors, actresses who have passed away in the past year. They mentioned Robin Williams.
Can we talk?
Mike Nichols, Maya Angelou, Richard Attenborough, among others. One person notably missing from that.
Can we talk?
Joan Rivers.
Yeah.
Joan Rivers wasn't even mentioned.
Why not?
I don't know.
She's a movie star. She was in Muppets Take Manhattan.
She was in Muppets Take Manhattan.
Great scene with the makeup and Miss Piggy.
She's been, she's associated with the Oscars, with the red carpet. She invented this red carpet.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right.
So, they haven't put out any statement yet.
I mean, the red carpet's never been as much fun since she was there.
I agree. And good morning to Emma Morano. She's an Italian woman. She is 115 years old. She is believed to be the oldest living European and the 5th oldest person in the world.
Whoa.
Now, how did she get to be 115?
Practice?
Well, practice is part of it, but she said a long, long time ago, a doctor told her that she needed to eat raw eggs, and so she eats 3 raw eggs
like Rocky?
For breakfast, just like Rocky.
You know, I don't want to live that. I would not eat a raw egg to live that long.
This is her diet.
Sorry, I'm thinking of a 115-year-old woman and 3 raw eggs. And
what a visual!
Well, go ahead.
Maybe that's your thing. But here's what she said: For breakfast, I eat biscuits with milk or water, and then I have the eggs, followed by pasta and minced meat for lunch, and then for dinner, I'll usually just have a glass of milk. She also, by the way, said that she's stayed away from men.
Oh, there you go.
She's never been married. Now, this is the second story.
She was married.
It's like Mrs. Lovett with the meat pies.
You're right. She was married, but she hasn't been married for a long, long time. She just stayed away from men. This is the second story that we've had in about 3 weeks where women said that they lived to be so long because they stayed away and avoided men.
How hard is it to stay away from men when you reach 113? I don't know.
Yeah, right. Also, when you're guzzling raw eggs every day.
But in that story, it tells, if you have it there, how many eggs she's consumed. They figured it out.
They did the math.
God.
They figure she's eaten around 100,000 eggs over the course of her life.
Wow.
That's going to piss off Tony Perkins.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Raw eggs. All right, here we go. On the more serious stuff of the day, the weekend.
Shopping.
Shopping, right. Al-Shabaab issuing a warning about people should be careful going to the Mall of America because they've suggested that domestic terrorists should target the Mall of America. First of all, who's Al-Shabaab? I mean, I can't keep up with these groups anymore.
First of all, who still goes to the Mall of America?
Yeah, right.
I mean,
it's called Amazon. That's the real Mall of America.
This is like a symbol of American largesse 15 years ago or 20 years, right? You know,
Yeah.
I think that was
Although I
interesting.
still think a lot of people go there.
Well, it's a big mall, yeah.
Yeah.
Al-Shabaab's this African. I mean, it's an offshoot of Al Qaeda, I guess. You know,
Aren't they all? Yeah.
Are they all? Well, yeah. So remember the mall attack in Kenya last year, the year before? When was that?
The Westfield attack.
Al-Shabaab's a kind of a country where, as a Pentagon reporter, we get these alerts when there's a drone strike that hits a high-value target, one of the leaders of these groups. And we get them every now and then, lately from Al-Shabaab, from Somalia. And it's some intelligence chief or some weapons runner or some deputy. It's always some deputy.
Yeah.
But that's who they are. And, the thing that struck me most about this, it's kind of saying, we can't attack you on your home soil, but we're going to put out a call. If you're, maybe they're getting wind of if you're going to be a lone wolf or a self-radicalized, schmo down in, up in Minneapolis, go right ahead. You have our blessing.
Uh-huh. So they're not saying we're sending people over here to do this.
Yeah, this was a call for people to go attack malls, go attack economic, centers, these mass places, and which oddly enough, I found this funny. I've got some friends in Abu Dhabi this week, this big IDEX International Arms Expo there. There cannot be more lavish obscenely capitalist malls than there are right in the Middle East. You don't have to go to you don't have to come. You don't have to come here. You don't have to go to Jersey or Mall of America. And these are the Galleria malls. This is where the Prada store is and the Gucci store is.
Yeah, they're in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, they're right there.
So Secretary Jay Johnson was asked yesterday whether people should take this threat seriously. Here he is, just quick.
What we're telling the public in general is you've got to be vigilant. We just revamped our If You See Something, Say Something campaign at the Super Bowl last month. And so public engagement, public awareness is critical. Americans should still feel that they are free to associate. They are free to go to public gatherings. But it's critical that we have public awareness and public participation in our efforts.
Are they safe in going to the Mall in America today? If you want to go take your kids to the Mall of America?
I would say that if anyone is planning to go to the Mall of America today, they've got to be particularly careful.
What does that mean?
It's a little frustrating, I think, because if there's a credible threat, and that's the phrase, if there's a credible threat, the authorities will say something, and they'll do something about it. And we've had this already in the U.S. or here in Washington. There have been threats issued that have changed the behavior of Pentagon employees, of military in Europe, who, not wearing your uniform off base. After the Australia shooting, New York put out some extra vigilant warnings. But to ask the public like this, to ask mom and dad to be vigilant, what do you ask them to do? That's what I wish they would say.
That's what I'm asking.
What do you ask them to do?
Yeah, it's really weird.
I mean, they go to the mall. I mean, see something, say something.
Right. What are you going to see? A backpack on the ground? That's not what you're looking for. I mean, there are things to look for that trained professionals and intelligence professionals and counterterrorism and FBI that they see and that they're looking for. And I think it's really their job to say yes or no.
Right.
Again, this kind of thing will happen.
Coming in with ski masks and AK-47s, you should be worried. But by that time, you're dead.
Yeah. I mean, we've heard this a lot. I think we take for granted in Washington or in some other big cities, maybe like New York. But honestly, I think not even much beyond that, how used to security we are and to what that might mean. Yeah. I mean, literally any kind of loud bang, and people's first thought here is that terrorism? It's not. Is that a construction site? That's not the case around the country. This alert also went out to the Edmonton, Canada. The same alert as well.
So is this the new trend, which is not that Al Qaeda would send people here to fly planes into our buildings, but they would sort of trigger people who are already here, who live here, to carry out their own attacks.
Right. Well, there's both of those things still. I think the worry about jihadists, call them will,
like in France,
coming
like in
over,
Denmark,
right?
Same thing.
Well, someone coming over to North America, say, that's where Canada comes into play. There's a bigger worry about terrorists who are made it into Canada and then could come to the United States. In the United States, I think it really is the homegrown element, and who could pop up and what could happen here. But I think again, this is it's a simmering bit of worry that Paris has happened already, and the next one's going to happen again. We all know it is. They are. Every intelligence and security professional believes it. It's just a matter of when and how quickly prepared are our security professionals and first responders to respond to it.
Right, and that must be a lot tougher, right, to track down or to prepare against.
Well, sure, and again, when you're talking, it's one thing to talk about something happening in the Middle East on somewhat of a battlefield versus
exactly
tracking the networks, and more than that, like we said, getting to the point of warning the public. When you have enough information about a brewing threat, a possible threat, that it then becomes a credible threat. Now we know something really could happen soon. What do you do about it? Do you shut down Grand Central Station? Do you shut down the federal government, all the museums and the malls here, or the National Mall, or something like this? My hunch is, again, this alert didn't come from the government. It wasn't out of the blue. The government said, "Hey, by the way, everybody, if you're going to the mall this weekend, look out."
Right.
This was thrust upon them, and so I think this was a surprise. And again, it may not have been a credible threat as much as some video comes out from way far away.
Right.
So Jay Johnson, who was already, by the way, doing the rounds, not for this, he was doing the media rounds for the budget fight. So he gets asked about it, and he says, "Well, be careful.
Yeah. The budget fight over DHS. What does that mean? Kevin Barron here from Defense One, defense1.com. We'll be right back on the other side. 866-55-PRESS. You got a question or comment for Kevin?
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we are, 27 minutes after the hour with Kevin Barron from Defense One here in studio with us. Kevin, Friday's a deadline for funding for the Department of Homeland Security. Not asking you to comment on whether it's a good idea to shut it down or not, but were the funding to run out and it shuts down, and we're talking about domestic security, what agencies are impacted here?
There's DHS.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know all the agencies under DHS, but you're talking about immigration, you're talking about border security, airport security, port security.
Yeah.
You know, frontline
stuff. You got them. You're talking about port security, TSA, Secret Service.
Secret Service, right. Oh, yeah, they're treasury.
Right. Coast Guard.
Now. Yeah. Coast Guard, right. I forgot about
Border
Sorry,
Patrol.
Coasties.
Yeah, no.
My grandfather was a Coast Guard.
All of that in there were it to shut down.
You know, if this were the troops, if this was the military, forget about it. You would never hear something like this.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. When I say dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we are 33 minutes after the hour, The Bill Press Show, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. And we are brought to you today by the American Federation of Government Employees, including a good number of the employees at the Department of Homeland Security, of course. Good men and women of the AFGE under President J. David Cox. Proud to work for America every day, you bet. And for more information, visit their website at afge.org. Well, the funding for the DHS is Department of Homeland Security. Is first and foremost on the agenda of Congress as they come back to town today. As Zach Carter has been reporting for Huffington Post, senior political economy reporter. And cars for the
so with ones around. But I've got a little electronic project called Brutalism going. Got some new stuff out there. So
nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
a lot of brutalist architecture in the city, so it's a very local kind of thing.
All right, bring in some music next time.
I will.
No, yeah, let's check it out. And Arthur uses that baby as an excuse for everything.
He does.
He can't walk the dog anymore because he's got a baby.
The baby.
So
can't be in the office today because I got a baby. Whatever.
No, I know. Sometimes he tries that stuff for us. Oh, I can't come in the studio. I got to do it by phone because I got a baby. We just say, yeah, forget about it. We've had kids. Come on.
Kids practically raise themselves. That's what I've learned.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a dog. It seems pretty tough. Kid seems a lot harder than what I hear.
So Friday, funding runs out for DHS, Department of Homeland Security. It seems unbelievable at a time when we've got warnings now about people shouldn't go to the mall because there may be a terrorist attack. We saw what happened in Denmark. We saw what happened in France. Heightened security concerns here in the United States. But Republicans really want to shut down the Department of Homeland Security?
It really makes sense. I think if you ask Republicans, they say they don't want to shut down the Department of Homeland Security, but they're not going to fund it with President Obama's executive actions on immigration included. Most of those have to be carried out by DHS. But what's really strange about the Republican opposition is that Republicans can't actually defund Obama's programs. They can only defund the broader agency. The programs themselves are fee-funded, so even if things shut down and we go into a situation where employees aren't being paid for some period of time, those programs would still be funded.
Would still continue.
Right. They have been stayed temporarily by a Texas judge, but we'll see how long that injunction stays. But even then, you wonder why the game of chicken is going on if literally there's nothing the Republicans can do about it.
Well, they've got to understand this, right? I mean, they're not dumb. I'm not sure of that, but anyway, I mean, they know the consequences. They know where the funding comes from. I mean, John Boehner's got to know that this program, the president's programs under the president's executive orders would continue. It seems to me they also have to know that this is not going to look good for the Republican Party if they shut down the Department of Homeland Security.
No, it would look very bad for the Republican Party. And I think some of the more hawkish, traditional, tough on everybody around the world when it comes to solving problems with bombs, members of the party realize that. You saw Lindsey Graham appearing on the Sunday shows this weekend saying, I just don't think with all the threats that we have around the world right now that this is the right time for us to be taking the funding for the Department of Homeland Security hostage. And I think that's really the strategy. I don't think the Republicans really think they can do anything about the funding for these executive actions, but they do think they've had quite a lot of success with this hostage taking in the past. They find moments of leverage, and then they just take some key part of the government or the entire government funding hostage. And we saw it with the Cromnibus last year. Major piece of Wall Street regulation that was repealed because Republicans wanted to slip it into a funding bill.
So this is what House Republicans want to do. Clearly, Senate Republicans not all of them necessarily agree with that approach. Mitch McConnell has said there will be no government shutdown. We'll see if he can deliver on that promise. And as you mentioned, Senator Lindsey Graham, who's a real hawk when it comes to foreign policy, says still this is a mistake. Here he is on This Week with George Stephanopoulos yesterday.
I am willing and ready to pass a DHS funding bill and let this play out in court. The worst possible outcome for this nation is to defund the Department of Homeland Security, given the multiple threats we face to our homeland, and I will not be part of that.
And the threats we face to our homeland and the Department of Homeland Security, I mean, that's since 9/11 when it was created. Mm-hmm. This is the agency now where all the domestic security forces were arrayed in one agency, right?
Right. I mean, I think
so. You've got TSA, you've got Border Security, right? You've got the Coast Guard, you've got the Secret Service,
and
I don't know what else. They're all there.
Our own Elise Foley has been reporting on this pretty extensively, and she points out that a lot of those jobs are not particularly fun jobs. You know, if you're a TSA agent, people are being rude to you all day. Nobody really likes going through the line at the airport. If you're an immigration agent, you've got liberals saying, why are you deporting all these people? And then you've got conservatives saying, why aren't you deporting more people? These are tough jobs for people to do. They're not fun things for the employees. And so, I think almost all of the Department of Homeland Security would actually continue to function because it's such a critical, security operation. I think about 85% of the agency would continue to be funded. But you're still talking about taking 15% of the agency and just making everybody's lives a lot harder. And that makes it harder for the department to recruit talented people, and that makes it harder for it to function in the future. We saw that with the government shutdown a couple of years ago. A lot of government employees were like, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through this rigmarole every couple of years where maybe I'm not going to get paid for a couple of months?
Right. Well, I have actually heard, I'm not making this, I've actually heard reporters, right-wing reporters at the White House briefing suggest that this is not going to impact our security because these people will continue to work. They just won't get paid for working.
Well, I mean,
the TSA people will still be there, the Coast Guard, the Secret Service will all still be doing their jobs. They just won't get paid. Now, that's not going to impact their performance at all? Or not to mention, is that fair?
I mean, you supposedly, let's throw morality out the window. I mean, supposedly, these are people who believe in markets. I mean, obviously you get better performance under traditional market economic theory when you pay people better or pay people at all. The idea that that's not going to have some sort of long-term impact on that department, I think, is totally wrong-headed. And I think people know that. I think they're just trying to minimize the damage because it now looks like Republicans really are not going to be able to get something through.
Right. So Mitch McConnell has tried 3 times to get the House version through the Senate. And John Boehner keeps saying, well, just try harder, try again, try harder. In other words, do what we did on Obamacare. Vote to repeal it 55 times. We know the definition of insanity. We don't have to go there. So Mitch McConnell's going to try again today for the 4th time. It's not going to happen.
Right.
So what are his options?
This is what's strange. I mean, he's going to hold another vote to appease the people in the House and also conservative activist groups. It's not just crazy people inside the Beltway who are saying this is something that they want. There are conservative organizations who are saying they don't want Mitch McConnell to cave on the executive amnesty from President Obama. Despite all the evidence to the contrary that they can't actually do anything by not caving. So McConnell is going to be faced with the choice of either abolishing the filibuster in order to deport a lot of children.
The nuclear option, right. So-called, right.
And you can see someone like Lindsey Graham, who is a hardliner on foreign policy, but who, like many other Republicans, voted in favor of a comprehensive immigration reform bill last year in the Senate. There are a lot of Republicans in the Senate who want to vote for actual immigration reform. They do not want to take extreme steps like changing the definition of the filibuster in order to pass legislation they don't even want to see pass. So I think McConnell is in a very difficult spot. He either changes the Senate rules in order to appease the right-wing base, or he kicks things back to the House and says, "Look, you've got to send us a bill that we can pass." And
a clean bill,
exactly. Right. And that will enrage the conservative base. So, I think Republicans have really backed themselves into a corner here, and it was predictable. This was something that they tried to work out, remember, in November and December when there were talks about a prior government shutdown.
Yeah,
this was the solution. Well, we'll deal with this in February. Well, now here we are. It's February. And it's I think, a really silly test for Republicans to subject themselves to. There are a lot of things they wanted to do on trade policy where they actually agree with the president on things, and they could really stick it to Democrats and liberal interest groups on trade policy, but they're not getting that opportunity because they're fighting with themselves over immigration.
Right. And so far they've spent 2 months, right, and delivered one bill on Keystone, which reminds us the president still hasn't acted on.
Right.
Right. His time on that has got to be running out. Peter, didn't we talk about this last week? I don't know. Do you know, Zach, when the deadline for?
I don't know on Keystone, but I mean, I think that shows that we still have, even though Republicans control 2 chambers of Congress, we still have a president who has power over how things happen in Washington, even if the Republicans don't like it.
Right, and so that and my point was, so they spent 2 months basically coming up with working on 2 different issues, neither one of which is going to become law, neither one of which is going to get past the White House. What's the point?
And you know that they if you look at things like, the Trans-Pacific Partnership or tax reform, these are things Republicans have been agitating for years. Tax reform is an opportunity to cut taxes for big corporations and wealthy political donors. It's a great opportunity for Republicans to do something, and the president has shown some willingness to work with them on that. TPP could really stick it to unions and a lot of liberal interest groups. That's an area where Republicans agree with the president on stuff and don't agree with Democrats. Instead of being able to take advantage of those opportunities, they're fighting with themselves. And I think for those types of activities, remember, there is a calendar here with the 2016 presidential election where after a few months, there just is no chance of anything happening because you will have everybody running for president and nobody will be willing to vote for anything remotely controversial. Right. So that's, I think we really are getting to the point with only a couple months into their reign in the Senate where they've only got a couple months left.
Not to mention that then they're on the track, as you say, rolling toward 2016, having once again come out against immigration reform, which is certainly not going to help them with that Latino base that they said they were going to be reaching out to. Don't understand it. No, it's hard to understand. Zach Carter is here from Huffington Post, senior political economy reporter at HuffingtonPost.com. We'll continue on the other side and welcome your calls at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
And here we are now, 11 minutes before the top of the hour with Zach Carter from Huffington Post, senior political economy reporter. So, Zach, you mentioned trade policy. The TPP, this is something, look, Democrats are against it. I'm against it, at least in the form that it's in right now, not against a trade deal. But if President Obama or if Republicans really wanted to work on something where they could get a deal with the president, this is it, isn't it?
It is, and the Republicans telegraphed that as soon as the November elections had taken place. I mean, Mitch McConnell held multiple press conferences saying, our party likes trade, Democrats don't like trade, but the president signaled he wants to work with us on this, so that's going to be at the top of our agenda. The trick is, in order for that deal to pass, which we don't know the full details of it, what we know is only through leaks that have come out because it's treated as...
Because it's all top secret for people who are involved in the negotiations, right?
Exactly. So the public doesn't know very much about it. But the things that Democrats have historically been concerned about in these free trade type deals, these NAFTA style deals, that they will exacerbate income inequality, that they can undermine all sorts of regulations. Those concerns have been sort of, I think, exacerbated by the leaks. The Democrats have said, well, this is actually this is exactly the stuff that we were worried about being in the bill. It's in there. So I think there are good reasons for Democrats who have historically been concerned about this type of stuff to be concerned about it. But also good reasons for Republicans who have liked this stuff to like it. I mean, this is exactly the kind of bill that you would expect Republicans to vote for like crazy over the last 30 years. And President Obama, for whatever reason, is very enthusiastic about it too. He's been making a pitch over the last since the State of the Union address, trying to say, look, this is a big break with the past. We're going to raise standards around the world. We're not going to make the same mistakes that we made in the past with trade deals like NAFTA. And that's an interesting rhetorical shift because just a few months ago, the administration was going around telling everybody that actually NAFTA was great and there weren't any problems with NAFTA, and we should be really enthusiastic about NAFTA style deals. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see where that fight goes because they can't just pass the bill outright. For that bill to pass, almost everybody believes President Obama needs something called Trade Promotion Authority, which basically bans all filibusters,
which
bans
is fast
Congress
track,
from,
right?
It's also called fast track, and it bans members of Congress from amending the agreement in any way. So it's just a straight up or down vote, no filibusters.
Thumbs up, thumbs down. That's it. Yeah,
exactly. But it's interesting that over the last 2 months, since Republicans came into the Senate, there has not yet been a fast track bill introduced. There's some talk that it could be introduced this week, but I think the reason it hasn't been introduced is because people are very concerned about at least its supporters are very concerned about having the 60 votes necessary to survive a filibuster.
Isn't there sort of an obvious conflict here between Republicans on the one side wanting to shut down the Department of Homeland Security because the president is using his executive authority, and in this case, the Republicans want to give the president more executive authority to negotiate a trade deal that they have nothing to do with.
Right, and I mean, I think there are elements of the conservative base who have highlighted that and said, why are we, if we go around, I talked to Phyllis Schlafly a couple of months ago about this, and she said, we've been screaming about his executive amnesty for months, and here we are going to expand his trade powers and give him the ability to write whatever trade bill he wants. I think the mainstream party in Washington is in favor of this stuff right now, but the defenses of TPA haven't been very strong. Paul Ryan has insisted to this base that they're not actually giving up any authority. This is their opportunity at the beginning of the trade talks to sort of shape things and push the administration in a good conservative direction. The trick is the trade deal is almost completed. It's been being negotiated for 4 years. So granting that authority at this point seems a little bit late.
And I'm sorry if I suggested that there should be any hope that we would expect constituency from anybody in
shame on you.
Consistency from anybody in Washington, D.C. Hey, Zach, so good to see you. Thanks so much for coming in.
Good to see you again, Bill.
Been a while. We'll get you in back again soon.
Looking
Zach
forward to
Carter
it.
from Huffington Post, HuffingtonPost.com. I'm next with Parting Shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, you know, it's for the Republican Party, it's pre-primary time when all the wannabe presidential candidates strut their stuff on stage. Last week, it was Chris Christie's turn This past week, it was Scott Walker's turn. He did even worse than Chris Christie. In rapid succession, Scott Walker, who pretends to be ready to lead the nation, refused to take a stand on evolution, whether President Obama loves his country, whether President Obama is a Christian, whom he might pick as new chairman of the Fed. He wouldn't even talk about whether or not he agreed with Rudy Giuliani's remarks that President Obama doesn't love America. In other words, Walker won't tell us when he stands, where he stands on any issues at all today. He proved already that Scott Walker is not ready for prime time. Well, stay in Wisconsin, but even Wisconsin doesn't deserve that bad a governor. Hey, folks, have a good one. We'll see you back here again tomorrow.